It's the Cinnamon. It is episode 44 of the
Wait,
Cinnamon.
wait. Episode 44 of The Cinnamon? This isn't your secret podcast?
This isn't the Secret Show. We're already on episode 45 of the Secret Show.
Right. Okay. Right. I mean, I wouldn't know that because that's you and Thomas. Whatever.
As much venom as he could muster behind that name.
I tried. I dug deep. For that.
You know what, sir? Best supporting actor, Douglas Davison, right there. Boom.
Aww.
So this is the movie podcast that's here on the Paprika Network as we start to wind these things on down, as it were, as it is in its form now. It's me, one of your hosts, Seed, and on the other half, we have, as always, the vibrant Douglas Davison. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I don't know if I feel vibrant. I don't know if I feel effervescent, as you've described me before. But I'm definitely present, so we'll take that.
You know what? Present is better than nothing.
That is true.
Better than nothing.
How you been?
Hey, man, just hanging in there. We're to the end of the year. Things are coming down to the wire. A lot of movies to be watched. A lot of stuff to take into consideration, into effect.
Yeah, it's this time of year you think things would wind down. They somehow ramp up. There are somehow more movies coming out now than it felt like has been coming out throughout the year. And it's probably just because everybody is, okay, we couldn't do what we planned, so we'll just put it out and see what happens. We're seeing that a little bit with Wonder Woman that's coming out on the 25th. We're seeing that with Soul coming out on the 25th. And both of them publicly have very different messages. Very different messages. Soul was like, this will be a gift to our members. Granted, we made them pay $30 to watch Mulan, and later this month we're going to make it free. But with Soul, it's a gift.
It's a gift.
So if you were at all interested in checking Soul out, you've got that to look forward to. And then there's Warner Brothers, which is releasing Wonder Woman 1984 on HBO Max for 1 month.
Works.
So if you haven't yet activated your HBO Max free trial, do that around the 25th.
I assume they're doing that in hopes of people doing exactly that and forgetting to cancel that free trial and getting them for a couple of extra bucks.
And I gotta admit, I haven't used HBO Max a lot, but it has got some really good content on it. It was wonderful to have, for example, in October, I made a point, and I mentioned this before, to use it to watch horror films I hadn't seen. And they've got to deal with Criterion.
Yep.
So there were some Criterion films on there. You don't get the bonus features, but we were able to check out Houseu through HBO Max. There was some other stuff that they've got on there that's just good content. The marketing is terrible for HBO Max, but the content's good.
The content is great, man. And Criterion stuff has been a gem to mine. Both positive and negative, because I'm like, hey, I paid and got Lone Wolf and Cub on Criterion now. Or I could have just watched it on HBO Max, which I have. But, I will never bulk against the physical medium. Got my Parasite in the mail, by the way.
Right on.
And my Irishman should be coming shortly. Yeah. So let's get into it, man.
Well, and real quick before we sidetrack too far or get back on point, is at least in my case, the big difference between something like an HBO Max, which is wonderful, and having that physical content is you can watch, what was it, Lone Wolf and Cub?
Yeah.
You can watch that anytime you want as long as you have a working DVD player and the disc isn't scratched.
True.
You could boot up HBO Max and be like, I'm in the mood for this. Where the hell is it? Why am I paying a monthly subscription and I don't have what I want? Whereas I can just go to my shelf and grab the thing that I want to watch. So that's where I advocate for having the physical copy. And honestly, I bought Houseu simply so that I could go through the special features and learn more about it, which I might not have bought it if those bonus features were included. And at least with HBO Max, they don't.
Boom, there you go. Well, maybe one of these days streaming services will think to include bonus features with their stuff.
Disney Plus does it a little bit. You get deleted scenes and stuff with like Avengers Endgame when that popped up. So they do it a little bit. And that's good. That's good because then it gives people a reason to stick around in the app. So, not everybody wants those bonus features, but I do.
Yes. Yes, I'm a huge mark for bonus features, which great on DVDs until Blu-ray came out, and they said fuck bonus features on DVDs, and then great on Blu-rays until 4K came out, and you're lucky to get director's commentary these days.
Well, although with 4K, they tend not to put the special features on the 4K disc. They'll only put them on the Blu-ray, which is fascinating. You have all this space. 4K, you have all the space. Maybe the problem is that they can't promise 4K resolution of the bonus features.
Of the bonus features.
Maybe that's why. I don't know.
We'll
Point
get
is,
down to the bottom of this.
Point is, get yourself some physical media. But as we move into our first topic, let's talk about the one streaming movie that I watched recently, which was Disney Plus, because it's the only way to watch it.
Yep.
The Lego Star Wars Holiday Special. Did you check this out?
No, I keep meant to, and I keep pushing it back to watch other things and pushing it back and pushing it back. I feel like a bad Star Wars fan.
No. It's totally fine. It's a brisk 45 minutes, and they need better writers to make that brisk 45 minutes not feel like an hour and a half. My problem is that with a lot of the Lego content, it's not as smart or as clever as some of their bigger projects, like the Ninjago, Lego Movie 1 and 2, even Lego Batman, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I watch it almost once a week because Connor loves that movie. The other properties, there's definitely great family fare, but the quality of the dialogue is just low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
It is just so bad. And for some reason, they decided to make a lot of jokes about Kylo Ren with his shirt off, and it ends up feeling like body shaming, like it's just awkward and weird. So, I mean, it's honestly the best part about it was seeing where, if you're not familiar, the Lego Star Wars special is set up where it's Life Day, just like the last holiday special, except this time it's with the sequel trilogy crew, and Rey is training Finn to be a Jedi, but she's not doing it very well, and to get help, she ends up going to a Jedi temple and discovers that she can travel through time while she's there. So she ends up watching Darth Vader and the Emperor in Return of the Jedi. She ends up bumping into Luke, who for some reason keeps pulling out these little cartons of blue milk, drinking it, and wiping it off of his face for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why they keep doing that with blue milk.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, but I mean, there's little jokes like that, and you get to see various moments throughout Star Wars history. It's fun and it's clever, but most of the time it's fine. It's just fine. So for a 45-minute distraction, if you're looking for one, you can only watch it on Disney Plus right now. So you can check that out. As of this recording, I haven't checked out Godmothered, or there was something else that was coming to Disney Plus that might be pretty good. So maybe check those out. I don't know. Isla Fisher and Jillian Bell, but I can't say it's worth watching because I haven't seen it.
Right.
If you've got 45 minutes to kill and you like Star Wars, the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special it'll entertain you, even if you're just like, well, I did a thing.
All right, then, fair enough.
Yeah. So what about you?
I checked out Sputnik.
Sputnik.
Yeah.
Talking about space.
Talking about space. Came out earlier this year. A Russian joint, man. Getting my foreign on. I don't remember how I came to this or how it even crossed my radar, but it did. It was on a list of things that I had saved for myself to check out throughout the year. However, I came to it and I was like, well, let's see what the hell the Russians do with science fiction. We see how they do with science fact. They do all right. At least they did all right back in the days. How do they tell stories in this realm, though? It's a sci-fi horror joint.
Sorry.
It's directed by a cat named Igor Abronenko. Incredibly Russian, starring a bunch of Russian people. It's about it is a ship that is out in space back in the 60s, 80s, something like that, 80s, because during the height of the Cold War, 80s. Ship out in space, a couple of astronauts come back down to Earth, and they don't realize that they have brought something with them unintentionally.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Score by Hans Zimmer.
And it is about it's a crash landing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the smoothest of landings. the one astronaut that survives said crash landing is put into isolation for reasons unknown, and they bring in our main character, who is Tatiana, to observe and investigate this guy. And then you start realizing that at certain times of the day, certain weird things are happening with this guy, and the unexpected uh, organism that he has brought back with him. And then it's how that whole thing plays out and unfolds. And of course, because it's Russia, you got the government being all shady and doing shady shit with it too. It's good, man. It's fairly low budget. I want to say like maybe 3 mil, something like that. So they don't put a whole lot of money into this movie. But the good thing about it is you don't need to put a whole lot into it. Very little special effects needed. Most of it's done practically. It's just a tight story with good acting is what this is. And it's 113 minutes, so it's not too long, not too terrible. It's a good entry into science fiction, and it's a good entry into horror. And I think you can find it on, you can rent it at all the places you can rent movies. Like I ended up watching it on Vudu, I think. I enjoyed it, man. I really enjoyed it. I think it's something that people should check out. If that sci-fi horror is kind of your thing, something like say like an Event Horizon or something like that, then this might be one that you want to put down to your alley.
Yeah, IFC Midnight, they have released some really interesting choices. I think they also did Relic and Swallow as well this year. They've done some others. All three of those I have not seen. Sputnik, Relic, or Swallow. However, interestingly, EOM senior contributor Hunter Heilman saw all three, recommends all three. Relic, I think, is one of his favorite films of the year, and Sputnik he spoke very highly of, as I recall. So if Hunter recommends a horror film, it's probably really good, particularly if you have a taste for horror, as
Yeah.
it were.
And I don't. And I
Hard.
still I would say it's still more sci-fi than horror, but highly enjoyable.
Right on, right on. It's definitely one I'm interested in checking out. I am hoping to make time for it. I'm going to have a lot more time in my evenings pretty soon. So it's going to happen.
It's gonna happen.
It's going to
Boom.
happen.
There you go.
Well, not exactly the easiest of transitions, but something that I thought would be fun, speaking of things not being what they seem, was to do a discussion of original songs in movies. Now, keep in mind, this isn't score that we're talking about. So your Hans Zimmer, your John Williams, etc. We're not talking about those. We're talking about actual songs that were written for movies, some which may be directly connected, some which may not. So it's your Drive It Like You Stole It from Sing Street, which is absolutely amazing. Your Ninja Rap, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. Blaze of Glory for Young Guns 2. It's Sunflower and What's Up Danger for Spider-Verse. On Our Own for Ghostbusters 2. Then you've got recent stuff like Into the Unknown from Frozen 2. There are a myriad of songs. Magic Dance from Labyrinth that you could choose from this, and that's just in recent cinema history. So I thought it would be fun to explore this, just to be something a little different as we go into the end of the year, and perhaps give people something, if they've never heard these songs or never considered them, might give them something to listen to. So, sir, what is your first song?
People have listened to all three of my songs. I can tell you that right now. When you first conceived this idea, I was like, I'll get it figured out at some point. And when I sat down and figured it out, I probably had 3 and 25, 30 seconds. I was like, boom, 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 done. And I was like, well, no, that's disingenuous. I need to take some time to really figure out and do some research and figure out what my picks are. And they still ended up being the exact same picks.
Yeah, but at least you considered it more. At least you edited
I did. And my first one, I'm going with, man, we got to go back to this would be the 70s. Bee Gees, Staying Alive, man, for Saturday Night Fever. I don't know a single person that doesn't like this song. It just puts you in a good mood. It's upbeat, it's tempo. I do believe it was on the charts too for a good while. It is a great way to bring you into this world of Saturday Night Fever. And the one thing I think I like about all these songs is they fit wonderfully within the movie itself, and also they're just damn good songs to listen to
Hmm.
outside, independent of the film itself. No one else could do that song but the Bee Gees, I feel. I feel like you give it to the most talented artists today, they might do a good rendition, but that shit is Barry and Andy Gibb all the way doing what it is that they do. Sure, singer-songwriters wailed and gnashed their teeth when they heard this song. I'm sure if aliens tried to invade in the 90s, they played this song and the aliens went away. No one hates this song. It's just fun. I listened to it about 5 or 6 times while I was washing dishes earlier today, and I was having a blast washing dishes. And it's my most hated chore of all time. So there you go. My first one, man. Staying Alive from the Bee Gees for Saturday Night Fever.
Right on, right
It's
on.
also, it's one of those joints. It's like, it's so popular. It's used to parody so much now that it's garnered its own bit of respect here.
There you go. Mine, I mean, it's a fantastic song. One of my favorite memories of that song, oddly enough, isn't from Staying Alive, but it's from I can't think of the name of the movie for some reason. Maybe you can help me. Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe, where Russell Crowe played like an AI who uses this technology to escape, and he's murdering people.
Oh, yeah. I watched it like maybe 2 or 3 years ago for Saturday Night Sci-Fi. That one's gonna bug me. Don't you dare look it up. You let my brain work, sir.
Okay, I figured it out. It's
It's
from
not
'95.
it's not Johnny Mnemonic, although I think it's
No, no, no.
around that
Johnny Mnemonic
time.
is
This Keanu?
Keanu Reeves
Yeah.
with what's his name from Black Flag, whose name is now also escaping me. But I've got the movie though.
Or you figure out what the yeah, you go on. I'm gonna my brain's gonna assimilate and process this.
All right. Well, my first choice.
Virtuosity. There it
There
is.
you go.
There it is. Whew.
Love it.
Couldn't live with myself if I hadn't pulled that one out.
Totally appreciate that. That's a movie that for some reason I watched a couple of times when I in '95. So I probably actually saw it in '96 because I wouldn't have been old enough to see it in the theater, but I remember renting it a bunch of times. For some reason, I just really dug that movie, and I haven't watched it in forever. So who knows?
You talking about that
Might be total
song?
crap.
That song? No, it's not. That song in movies, "Staying Alive," for me, it's gonna be Airplane, man, because it's the fight scene at the bar at the docks, the Girl Scouts.
Oh, there's so much that is good in that movie, but that scene in Airplane, uh, just the role reversals and the way
Yeah.
that they do. Oh, it's so good. We could do a whole episode just talking about that movie, but it won't be today. So, my number one is a film that I can't. There's some films that when you watch them, you cannot articulate why you enjoy them so much.
Hmm.
That it's not just the storytelling, it's not just the structure of a film. That there's just it's not the performances, what have you. It just hits you at the right time in your life, and it just sticks with you. And this is going to be sound so dumb with such a setup. You guys are going to be like, "Oh, it's got to be Citizen Kane." No, I'm talking about a Goofy movie. I am quite literally. You should see the disappointment on Daryl's face. A Goofy movie. Uh, there is something about this movie that I have just loved. I've Max Goof is in this film Goofy's son presented as an outcast, a kid who just wants to get along, wants to get to know, get the girl, have his friends, have his success, and he is otherwise feeling outside of everything in school. And that was me. That was absolutely and totally me. And I can remember being on a trip to visit some friends from camp in New York, and I think I had bought the Goofy movie soundtrack while we were out somewhere, and I was just sitting on the floor of whatever room I was staying in with my CD player, headphones on, just rocking out to the soundtrack. And as Daryl can attest, I'm even wearing a Powerline t-shirt right now, which is the fictional musician that Tevin Campbell voices in the band, because we saw this t-shirt and it's a tour shirt. I'm disappointed Charlotte's not on it, but we saw it and Crystal was like, "You're getting that." And I saw it and I went, "Yes, I am." So my song is Eye to Eye, the concluding song, the culminating song in the movie, which Tevin Campbell sings along with Rosie Gaines. It is a wonderful song. It is a fun song. And if you don't know about the perfect cast, then you need to watch it so you can learn. But it is just, it's a heartwarming movie. And this song just fills me with joy. It's one of those, if it comes on, I have to belt out the lyrics.
Okay.
Everybody's got one of those.
Yeah, oh yeah.
This is one of those tracks. Anyway, what's yours, sir?
Talking about songs coming on, and you just gotta belt out the tracks, man. I gotta pull it back to the '80s again. With my man, a young fellow named Huey Lewis and his fellows, the News,
Are we going
coming
to be back in
together.
time?
No, we are not gonna be back in time. We're gonna be Power of Love.
Nice.
Power of Love is that movie fucking jams, man. It rocks. It is also the instrumental version is what Marty and his band play at the Battle of the Bands, so they incorporate it into the movie that way. Of
You think Huey
course,
Lewis would have voted yes for him then?
you think he would have voted yes for it, but they were just too darn loud for whatever reason they were. This song is so good that the week that we are recording this here in November, some Pop Regans did not realize that's not the theme to Back to the Future. I don't know if you saw that thread of
I did not.
talking about it was four themes. Which theme do you have to toss out? As a Star Wars theme, the Back to the Future theme, the Pirates of the Caribbean theme, and the James Bond theme. And
See, I would have figured
everybody's
you were talking scores, not songs. Interesting.
it was yeah the theme itself. And people are like, oh, the Back to the Future theme is Power of Love. We're like, no, Alan Silvestri does the theme to Back to the Future. It's so ingrained in the movie and so well recognized that people think it's the actual theme, and it's not. It's just that and Back in Time that they both did for the soundtrack are incredibly good movies. And this they both get you in that feel good kind of mood. The music swings, it pops. There's nothing bad about it, man. It's my only exposure, unfortunately, to Huey Lewis and the News are these two songs, but yeah, he belts it out in this joint, and I love it. I love it. So,
If you'd like to learn something about Huey Lewis and the News, but you don't want to listen to the music, I recommend American Psycho. You'll learn quite a bit about Huey Lewis and the News.
okay, I thought you were gonna say I recommend you just watch Back to the Future again,
No,
but yes, I
no, no,
will.
no.
I will check this out.
Yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, he's having Patrick Bateman is having a conversation with Jared Leto's character in his apartment about Huey Lewis and the News and dissecting the songs and everything else while moving around Jared Leto's character, setting up the room so he can murder him.
Yeah, I've never seen American Psycho,
Well, there you go.
so there you go.
There
I
you
got
go.
something to check out now. Also, I had no idea Jared Leto was in that movie. All
Yes,
right
he is.
then. What's your second pick, sir?
My second pick sounds like it would be a song from the 80s, but that's because it was released in 1990,
Mm.
attached to a small film property that anyone involved is shocked at all that it not only was successful, but it spawned two live action sequels that followed the same path line before it got an animated version theatrical release and then two more live action releases that are not great to fine. This is in fact the theme song to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles by Partners in Crime, Turtle Power.
Wow.
This again, this is one of the by the way, these Eye to Eye Turtle Power, I own the CDs. I still listen to the CDs for this. And just purely accidental jumping off the conversation of earlier physical media, I tried to find out what Partners in Crime has released other than Turtle Power on this soundtrack. iTunes, when I was clicked on it and went go to iTunes, it found this song on a CD, Lost Hits of the 90s. You can't get the Ninja Turtles soundtrack anymore. It's got some phenomenal songs on it that are very much of the 90s. But Turtle Power is for anyone who grew up a fan of the cartoon, who saw the live action one, whatever you think of the movie, you inevitably love this song.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Ninja Rap is fun and it's good, but nothing beats Turtle Power. And this is another one of those tunes that when it comes on, you get hyped because of the way that the tones that they use in it, sort of that sort of stereotypical ancient type of wah that begins the song, and then they move into the hip hop portions, and it's just fun. It's just fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that it's no whatever Sunny Day in LA song that opens up La La Land, and you know it's not anything. I forget the name of that song. I'm sorry for butchering it. And I do love Blaze of Glory. I do love Drive It Like You Stole It. But man, I mean, Turtle Power is just so iconic.
If you had asked me, or anyone had asked me prior to recording this episode, I would have put cold, hard cash money on the fact that you had Drive It Like You Stole It on your list.
Nope. It didn't
Man,
even make it into my top 6.
didn't even make it into the top 6. Welcome to the
Nope.
Cinnamon, where we do 7 picks of everything now, so I can make my cold hard cash back.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, what? No, you're not changing the. Oh, you want to win money? Oh, okay. Yeah, it wouldn't have made it into the top 7. I'm just going to show you this list. This right here, right here is just from the wall that I have downstairs, where I was doing my initial. Okay, what soundtracks do I own, and what movies have put out original songs? The sheer number doesn't even go into like Jungle Book and the animated Robin Hood and all these other. Trying to pick you were like 3, boom, done. I'm like, no, not my babies. How do I choose my babies? So yeah,
Man.
This was hard, but we're down to 2. What's your top?
What's my top one, man? Yeah, this whole list came to me fully realized, which is a rarity. We got to go franchise here.
Okay.
I feel like we couldn't leave without paying respects to the world of James Bond, who we have an original song for every single movie. Sure. And then they announced that Adele was doing a song, and we knew it was going to be straight fish grease. And that's exactly what we got with Skyfall's theme. And Skyfall's theme is, or the song for Skyfall, aptly titled Skyfall, is, I think, the best offering in a franchise where part of the review of a movie is also how that opening song is. Like that's also packaged in with the overall quality of the movie. People would be like, yeah, Moonraker is whack, but the song is kind of good. The song is that important to the James Bond franchise. It's part of the DNA. And I think Skyfall is the best offering we have gotten out of that. Adele belts that bad boy out like nobody's business, and it really does set the tone for the movie as well. The orchestration behind her wonderful vocals, it's incredibly fitting. It's peanut butter and chocolate. It just goes hand in hand. That is a great opening theme, and it kind of, for me, I've always kind of been able to gauge a Bond movie by that song. Like we got like the Sheryl Crow one for Tomorrow Never Dies, and I was like, I was like, that's okay. And then that movie was just like, it's okay. I knew what I was getting when I heard the song. When Skyfall was ending and the movie proper was beginning, I was like, we're in for some shit here, I think. And for me, who really loves Skyfall, it held up all the way from the beginning, starting with that song.
And you could do a lit. I mean, I'm sure somebody has. A friend of mine, Michael Reyes, probably has, because he's a big James Bond fan. You could do a list just of those songs. I mean, even the modern ones. Casino Royale is just, goddamn, Chris Cornell fucking killed it in terms of setting the tone of what this Bond was going to be with that theme song. And God, I can't think of, why can't I think of it? Some of my favorite Bond songs are like from the Roger Moore era.
Yeah, Roger Moore was my least favorite Bond, but his songs, they had a great run of Roger Moore songs.
Oh yeah.
Whereas Connery had a great run of movies with okay songs. Except Goldfinger. Goldfinger is like number 2 for me.
See, now I already have my iTunes open. Pardon me a moment while I just do a quick search. I actually own every single song.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going to discuss this, the very best of Bond, James Bond, View to a Kill for me is probably top.
Is that like Aha or Duran Duran? Yeah, okay.
Duran Duran. Although Living Daylights gets really close for me. That's
Aha, right?
That one was Aha.
Yeah.
Those for me are top tier. Lulu's The Man with the Golden Gun is just so good. And part of what makes it so good, at least for me, is that as a kid, I loved the song. As an adult, it's so dirty.
It is. The only thing I know about that song is the man with the golden gun will get it done.
Yes, he will.
Yes, he will.
Although I think of the more modern songs, I think my favorite one has to be Goldeneye, Tina Turner. And we
Yeah.
talked about this. We talked about this back in January when we rewatched Goldeneye. But I don't know what it is. It's just something about between the lyrics and the instrumentation and everything else. That probably is my favorite of the modern Bond themes.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that is a factor of we hadn't had a Bond movie for years, like 8 years, something like that. So there's like a desolation world with no Bond, and then you come back with a fresh new dude, one of the queens of music in Tina Turner, and it was just a recipe for success. And she knocked it out the window.
So before we wrap this up, move into our challenges, quick question for you. Because of the landscape of movies, the expectation was we would have No Time to Die already by this point.
This
And
past
so,
weekend, I think, or a couple weeks ago, it would have been.
couple of weeks ago, I think, because they moved it up a little bit from when it got pushed back to November. Billie Eilish, who I am not really familiar with as a musician, she got tapped to do this. Do you think, given everything that, because usually the song gets released and then that sort of helps to promote the movie in that lead up, which with everything happened, they released the song last spring and then nothing. So do you think that it would be worth either doing a re-release or getting somebody else to do something? Or do you
I
think the song's done and the Bond movie's going to be what it's going to be? Because you're right, they are closely tied together.
Yeah, I mean it's two of the things you said. It's done and released, and they're gonna keep it. I wish they'd have somebody else redo it because I'm not a Billie Eilish fan. I heard that announcement and I was like, oh well, here we go again. But it is what it is at this point. Not a big fan of the song, but I'm hopefully the movie can come and carry its weight because I don't even know who did the song for Spectre. That was incredibly forgettable. Or even if it has Spectre in a title.
It was Alicia Keys and Jack White.
That's Quantum of
Wait,
Solace.
no, that was Quantum of Solace.
Yeah.
Spectre. Wait. Do I not have that one?
I got nothing. I just picked up the Blu-ray because it was in the $5 bin.
Oh, right. It was Sam Smith, Writings on the Wall. That's a good song. The movie's not great, but the song's good.
I could agree with that. The song is pretty damn good, but it does not translate into the movie being good, unfortunately. It is coming December, which for me as a child back in the 90s, TBS ran James Bond like nobody's business in December. So that's like those two things go hand in hand in my world. So now that we at the time of this recording are coming up in December, I've already laid my plans that it will be James Bond-a-thon at times.
Right on. Hey, and with the upcoming release of our sequel album, Baby Number 2, it might be time to break out the ultimate James Bond collection that I have, because when Connor was born, we went through all the Mission Impossibles that had come out by that point because Crystal hadn't seen them and a bunch of other stuff. So maybe I just need to break out James Bond and be like, Connor, come learn about James Bond.
Learn about the Bond. I buckled because I only watch Bond during December. Like, that's my thing. I buckled, and of course I watched Goldfinger the day the Connery news broke. But yes, that's one thing I really look forward to in December is getting my top 10 movies of the year list, my top 5 hip-hop albums of the year list, and watching some Bond.
Right on. Well, then, you've given us a wonderful choice for a third film. Mine, by comparison, it's anthemic. I don't think anyone could argue that. And it's from a band that is on its own, internationally known, widely respected, was totally brutalized by the, I hate to say it, Oscar-winning film that came out about this group, but it's Princes of the Universe by Queen. Which, now, here's the thing. The movie Highlander, of which this film is heavily, which the song is heavily featured, the movie had no official soundtrack. But Queen did the majority of songs that are featured in it do come from Queen, and the album A Kind of Magic is considered widely and accepted as the unofficial soundtrack, where there's only, I think, 3 songs on that soundtrack that don't either reference Highlander or weren't included in it, and one of them was in Iron Eagle, which...
Shout out to Luke Gossett.
Yeah, such an amazing movie, and I want them to release a restoration because Iron Eagle 1 and 2 are so good, and I haven't seen them in years. But Princes of the Universe, I can remember being a little kid visiting my grandmother in Ohio, and that's when I still had a cassette tape, and I had a container of cassette tapes that I took with me on trips. And going to a record store when we still had those, a proper record store, and going through looking for the Highlander soundtrack, and all I knew was "Here We Are," which was that part of the lyric
Uh-huh.
that started it, and not realizing it was called Princes of the Universe. And of course, finding out and then just going down this rabbit hole of Queen songs. That song so perfectly encapsulates the sci-fi drama of the Highlander series, and of course went on to be the theme song of the Highlander TV show. You cannot talk about Highlander without thinking of Princes of the Universe. You can't think about Queen without thinking about this song, which says something considering Queen was also attached to Flash Gordon, having
Right,
done
right.
both the score and the album for that. And Queen has released hit upon hit upon hit over their lifetime, or over Freddie Mercury's lifetime, I should say, more appropriately. And this one is top tier. And when I'm asked to come up with some of my favorite original songs, yeah, you'd think "Drive It Like You Stole It" would be on there, but the three that I've mentioned, particularly Prince of the Universe, were something that hit me so deeply, like it has become ingrained in my DNA. And this album is so good and almost perfect to a fault that I could not, without conscience, mention Princes of the Universe as my number one.
And you would get no arguments from me whatsoever in that aspect because it gets you hype, right? It
Yes.
gets you in the mood to pull out a sword and go to work on Clancy Brown with it. I first heard it from the TV show because I saw the TV show in the 90s before I saw the movies.
Mhm.
So I just knew it as, oh, it's the opening credits of this Adrian Paul Highlander joint. And then I went and I looked at the movies and I was like, oh shit, it's from the actual original movie. That made me even more hype for the movie because I'm sitting there like, yeah, Born to Be Kings. Like, 12 or 13-year-old me or however long old I was when I watched that joint. It gets you in that right frame of mind to watch that movie.
Yeah, and while the sequels from Highlander have had varying levels of quality,
The what
I
now?
personally, the Highlander sequels have had varying levels of quality.
The what now?
You're mean. You're mean.
There's one Highlander out there that exists there. There's two. Highlander 1 and Highlander Endgame. That's all I ever need in my life. That's
Okay,
all.
the Renegade edition of Highlander 2 is good.
Okay.
Is good. And it has one of my favorite interactions between Christopher Lambert and Sean Connery when they're trying to break into a place and they know it's a death trap, so they on purpose drive in, get shot to hell.
Just get shot all to hell.
Yeah, and then when they come back, they sit up and it's like, 186. Yeah, and the other one's like, no, it was 190. That one doesn't count. And Sean Connery's like, of course it counts. Puts a finger through it. It went right through me. And it's like, yes, because it knows what it is.
Yeah.
And the Renegade edition took away some of the stuff that the theatrical screwed with, if you will. So I personally am a fan of the Renegade edition, but yeah, Endgame, of course, because it gave Adrian Paul, it gave some credence to those television stories, gave Lambert a reimagined ending, if you will.
Yeah.
That sort of removes Highlander 2 and Highlander 3. Sorry, Mario Van Peebles. But, I do agree. Endgame is fantastic. I've actually wanted to rewatch that recently. But anyway, so yeah.
There we go. And there you have our lists respectively. So any of those movies you haven't seen, go check them bad boys out and enjoy the music they're in. Let's get to these challenges, sir.
Oh, speaking of challenges, yours involves some music.
Yeah, it does.
Start with yours.
You gave me the best little whorehouse in Texas.
Yes, it did. It is one of my favorite musicals.
It is a musical directed by Colin Higgins, Dolly Parton, Burt Reynolds, Jim Nabors playing the exact same character Jim Nabors plays in every movie Jim Nabors has ever been in, and Dom DeLuise being absolutely ridiculous.
He's awesome.
Which is what Dom DeLuise is known for. He's also great being ridiculous. I thought this movie was okay. I thought it was all right. I am on record as saying I'm not huge into musicals, but it's good. It's better than I thought it was going to be. I ended up being pleasantly surprised at what I saw. Uh, Country isn't exactly my thing,
Hmm.
so you get a country star to headline a musical. I'm like, oh, here we go for country music.
Yeah, but it's
But
Dolly Parton.
but it's Dolly Parton, so one of you know yeah best country stars ever, but just by all reports the dopest human being there is.
Yes.
Yeah. Burt Reynolds does what Burt Reynolds does. Great story about a whorehouse that survived through the ages and generations, kind of on the low key in Texas. It's one of those secrets that everybody knew about, but nobody really did anything with because they had their rules, they had their laws, they weren't ever rowdy, they didn't disturb the peace or anything like that. They just kind of came and went, did their own thing. The proprietor of the establishment during this generation, Dolly Parton's character, Mona, great with civics, donate a lot of money into the city. There's a good working relationship between her and Burt Reynolds, who's of course the sheriff. And then Dom DeLuise shows up and kind of throws the pipe wrench into that quiet Texas town's life, and things go a little bit haywire from there. If you're not familiar with the story of the play that is turned into this movie, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas,
And I believe a true story.
I believe it wouldn't surprise me one bit.
I mean, it's Texas. Of course, Texas would have a whorehouse in it. God have mercy on our souls. Sorry.
I'm just gonna cut that out, and that will be my phone ringer from here on out.
Go for it.
Um, the one joint that I will say, the one number that I really dug in this movie was things kind of come to a head where we have the Texas A&M versus UT. I think it's versus UT or Texas Tech, one of the two. Football game, the big football game, and the tradition is the winners get to go on over to the whorehouse. And this is after Dom DeLuise has come and they kind of shut things down. And Dolly Parton's told Burt Reynolds, hey, look, we're going to shut down and lay low for a little bit. But nope, they have this giant party and things really turn out of hand. Thanks to Dom DeLuise again and at this party. And the football players have been the most excited guys I've ever seen about getting laid. When you're star football players on a college team, this probably happens on the regular, but they are pumped about going out to this pun intended, about going out to this place. And their dance number is the most enthusiastic dance number of the entire joint. Like they just got done with a football game. Football games last 3 hours of physicality, of sweat, of blood, of pain, of tears, and they still have some rough reserves to do a whole dance number in the locker room, and then still even more in the reserves to go give it their all at the whorehouse too. These kids have stamina. But yeah, it's fun. It's good. I would, if there's somebody I knew that liked musicals that hadn't seen this movie, I'd tell them to go ahead and give it a check out, man. Let me know what you think.
Right on, right on. I've never seen the Broadway show that it's based on, and this is literally it for me. I mean, with just about every movie I've seen, I usually have some memory or something tied to it. I saw this, I think, for the first time with my family at Myrtle Beach. It came on TV, like TBS or something, when I was a little kid, and we just sat around the TV and watched this movie. And I knew Dom DeLuise and Burt Reynolds from like the Cannonball Run movies and Smokey and the Bandit and stuff like that. And I knew Dolly Parton as a singer, and she'd of course done some Christmas movies with I can't think of the actor, singer, country musician as well. I can't think of his name all of a sudden. He was in one of the A Star Is Born movies, and I can picture him. I can't think of him.
The Barbara Streisand joint?
Yeah, he was the male lead.
Hmm.
I can't think of his name anyway, and then at the moment. Anyway, love these songs. There's a couple of them. I'm not a big country person either, but there's a couple of them. Itsy Bitsy Podunk joint that they used to describe the place is great. Sidestep that Charles Durning sings is one of my favorite songs, just period. And every time we talk about politics, all I think of is the sidestep. Did he answer a question? Did he answer a single thing? And just some really wonderful little tidbits. And yeah, I think it also speaks to the fact that as I recall, it is inspired by a true story, and the fact that there are local traditions that we have, but then when we bring in the morality police, that are really just trying to stir things up to get ratings,
Mm-hmm.
not because they themselves wouldn't take advantage, but just to get ratings, that's when things get complicated and our local understanding of things gets blown up and out of proportion. We got to shut things down.
Yeah, those
They
sly
were
foxes are
excited,
always getting in there.
you know? I mean, the reason why those dudes were excited, yeah, they could probably get laid on the regular if they're in college on a football team, but it's the chicken ranch. It is the chicken ranch. So, of course, they're going to be excited about it.
Of course, they're going to be excited about it.
But anyway, the film you challenged me to was not a musical
Nope,
at all.
sure
There was
wasn't.
there was music. There's a score. There are characters playing the piano, and there are characters dancing. Music is evidently important to these characters,
Mm-hmm.
though it only really shows up at the beginning. The movie was Advantageous by Jennifer Fang from 2015. I watched this on Netflix.
Uh-huh.
It's actually amusingly, it was already on my queue, on my list before you recommended it. I'd read about it somewhere and had added it and then completely forgotten.
Okay, right on.
So I went to look it up and it was like, it's already on your list. And I went, Daryl has good taste.
That's because I hacked into your business.
You don't have to hack into my business. You can just ask nicely to get in my business.
Uh,
But
it's one of those. It was the same thing for me. Like I'd heard about it a while back, and then like earlier this year, I was just like, I never did check that out, and then just sat down and watched it.
it's good and not necessarily in a oh my god it's amazing. It as an indie film, it's a sci-fi family drama in which the world is kind of gone to crap. There's a big sense of haves and have-nots, and it explores gender disparity, race disparity, classism in a number of different ways. And it focuses on a woman, a single mother, and her daughter. The daughter can't have children. She's one of the first generation Earth people, Terrans, that can't have children. Her mother could, and as she's losing her job, is looking at different ways in which she might be able to make money to provide for her daughter. One way is to potentially sell her eggs. She is not interested in doing that. And another way pops up where this company that she works for, as the literal face of their marketing, she can potentially become a test candidate for a new program they're working on, wherein they can take your consciousness and move it into a new body. And so it's exploring that, and the choices that are made with it are only partially explored. Like it's about an hour and a half long, and the first hour is the build up to the transition. So the transition
Right.
itself isn't the focus, and because of that, I found it difficult to understand what the point of the film was. Was it the way that we connect? That was the focus of it? Was it the reliance on money to create happiness? Is it the issue of classism that we were discussing? There's so many interesting ideas here with some really strong performances. Ken Jeong, for example, shows up very briefly in a role that is very different from what we're used to seeing the frequently comedic actor do.
Right.
Personally, having seen him in 3 other films this year, Over the Moon, Scoob, and the opening act, this was the most somber performance I've seen him give. Certainly out of
This
those
is the
3.
most somber performance I've seen him give over his filmography.
Yeah, yeah. But it's really compelling and really interesting. I was wondering what the significance of the color purple was, because it's in everything from the clothing to the rooms. Even the sky almost takes on sort of a purple sense of it. And I was wondering if that was to help create the almost otherness of this world, or if there was something else entirely. But it's led by Jacqueline Kim, who plays the lead character, and she is just wonderful. She is just
And I
absolutely
thought she
wonderful.
did great.
Yeah. It is a film I would recommend, but don't go into it thinking that you are going to get every answer. It doesn't tie things up into a bow. It's more melancholic, and it's a little bit more open-ended philosophical.
Yeah,
So
that's a movie that I wish they'd been able to put a little bit more money into. To get a little bit more respect on its name, to maybe even give it a bigger push. They clean it up a little bit, polish it up a little bit, um, maybe do another pass on the script to tighten things up a little bit.
for
But
me, it's more the script than the look of it.
yeah, I wish they've been able to beef this up a little bit. So if this is released by, I'm looking at now, Netflix 2015,
Hmm.
that's round about the time when Netflix first got into doing their own movies. So this, I feel like, is one of their earliest babies. I'm not sure if this is Netflix produced or they just picked it up.
They may have just picked it up because you can also watch it on iTunes or Amazon, so it's not
There you go.
Netflix only.
Okay, all right then. But still, I wish this would have had had more eyes on it because it's weird. It's a little bit oddball, but I kind of dug it.
That's one of the things where I advocate. This is a prime example of where I advocate for a service like Netflix or Amazon or Hulu. Hulu, for example, has been partnering with Neon a lot with the home releases for Neon this year. Shirley, Palm Springs, um, Ammonite, stuff like that. They're getting Neon. They're getting Hulu releases through that, and I think it's
Hmm.
really wonderful because then it gives people an opportunity to see films that they may be able to find in the theater. And the same thing with Netflix. They find some films that you might think to yourself, well, I wouldn't pay money for that. But because you're already paying money into a subscription, you're more open to taking chances on things.
Right.
And advantageous, again, I'd heard obviously some good things about it that I put it on my list and just never made it to it. So thank you for challenging me to this because there's so many things to watch that choosing something. And this is a film that benefits from Netflix because we watched it, we're talking about it, someone might hear this and then go watch it.
It's the whole
It's
purpose of the show.
exactly. I mean, Extraction doesn't need our help. The Five Bloods doesn't need our help. Mank doesn't need our help. Advantageous does.
Right.
And so being on a streaming service like this is really, really, well, advantageous.
There you go. Way to pun it up at the very end, but I'll take
You know, that's how I do.
it. You got anything else before you wrap this bad boy up, sir?
No, no. It has been a pleasure to be doing this with you. I think this is our last formal show before we
I got
start
one more.
before we do our top films of the year,
Hmm.
and then we go on break. So I just want to say this has been awesome. It's been a hell of a year, but doing these podcasts with you has been uh, it's been an incredible and helpful break. This is some of the most socializing I get, and doing this has been a treat. The extended break, I'm going to miss you a great deal.
I will echo all of those sentiments. I mean, I'm sure we'll be messaging throughout my
Yeah.
little couple months break that we will take from all podcasting ventures and whatnot. But yeah, this is especially for some reason this show in particular. Like most times, I'm like, yeah, it's time for New Cinema with Doug. It's a good day. It's something to look forward to. But this, and in particular, man, I was listening to my music. I was rocking out. I was having a good time. I'm like, I'm going to enjoy talking with Doug today. And that's the goal with each one of these. And hopefully that's the goal for y'all listening is you get to enjoy hearing us talk about stuff. And if you agree or disagree, whatever the case may be, as long as you enjoy listening, that's what it is. Because we both definitely enjoy doing them. I cannot wait until the world has some semblance of normalcy and rights itself, and we are allowed to actually be face to face and back in the studio. It would be
I agree.
nice.
I agree. I miss the studio. That thing was fun. I like being in that space.
Some dick snapped off one of the microphones from the arm.
What?
I think 2 weeks ago, we went in there to do our choose our own one of our Patreon shows, and microphone one, the host's microphone, had been somehow snapped off of the arm that it hangs from, and it's animals that are in that studio.
I'm surprised we haven't. I didn't get an email talking about it. I'm surprised someone wasn't like, "All right, we're shutting down the studio. You bastards have just defiled the place."
Well, I think one reason they didn't is because the people who did it immediately emailed them and said, "Hey, we're sorry." I think they were just trying to like adjust it because I've had problems adjusting that thing too, and they just were a little too rough with it. Hey, replace within a couple days. So it's a good studio. They run a good, clean organization over there, and I will miss that place as much as I will miss podcasting.
Although,
And
the fresh air will be good for you.
the fresh air. I hopped in the car just to take a drive. I was trying to finish out an audio book, and I was like, I'm just gonna go wherever the steering wheel takes me, and I ended up at the podcast studio.
Second home.
Yeah, I was like, how did this happen? That's where I ended up. But yeah, we got two more, if you want to get technical about it, episodes. The big Paprika Cinnamon crossover. Well, we will
Are we going to fight aliens like the CW characters do?
Yes.
Travel in time?
That is it's actually going to be the contact aliens, and it's going to be Thomas Manning, whose knees are inverted. So on Paprika, we will be listing our top 10 through 6 list. And then here on this very fine show, The Cinnamon, we will finish that up. And it'll be the last show of The Cinnamon with 5 through 1, which I am starting to scramble to get that together. And Smug Doug will say, you need yourself a letterbox. In which you are correct, Doug. I do need myself a letterbox, and I plan on getting that set up next year.
I don't think I've been smug about it at all. I've just been like, dude, your life would be easier if you used it.
Yeah. And I'm coming to realize that I need to just get down on this, which would have helped now, but it'll help for next year. We got a little bit more cinnamon left for you before the end of the year.
As far as I'm concerned, we're not done. We're not done. I'm not finished with you yet.
Yeah, we're not done by a long shot. So that's it for this particular episode. We'll be back, like I said, to unveil our top 10s of the years. Until then, you guys take it easy and have a good one out there.
Be safe. Be fun.